Parshas Chayei Sarah. Vayavo Avraham lispod l'Sarah v'livkosa. Avraham comes to deliver a eulogy for his wife Sarah. Mefarshim all are perplexed by the strange construction of this pasuk. Rather than the more elaborate "and he came in order to eulogize," the Torah should have used a more succinct language, vayispod, the one word which would contract to mean "and he delivered a eulogy." Why does the Torah say vayavo, and he came, lispod, in order to deliver a eulogy? And there are four basic answers that are offered to this question. One is geographic. That vayavo, the Torah is telling us that Avraham came from some other place, whether it's Beersheba, anywhere outside of Hebron, that's where he came from. But the question then becomes, if that's in fact the case, why does the Torah not delineate specifically from whence he came, from where he came? And what would be the purpose, what is the mashmos, the meaning of telling us that? Number two is a halachic approach. There is a debate in Gemara in Maseches Sanhedrin regarding what is the purpose of a eulogy. Is it for a kavod hames, to give honor to the deceased? Or is it kavod hachayim, to give some type of inspiration and honor to the living? And the Gemara seems to come down on the side that it is for the deceased. It is a kavod, an honor for the deceased. And we see that playing itself out in the fact that if you have to delay a burial in order for individuals to come to give in a proper eulogy, one may do so, as witness our pasuk in Chayei Sarah. The Chazal tell us that the kavura of Sarah was in fact delayed in order to give Avraham appropriate time to come and deliver the eulogy. That's a halachic approach. A third approach is cited in a medrash. The medrash tells us the machlokas between Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Levi says that Vayavo, Avraham came, he came from an event. The event that he came from was the kavura of Terach. And he came from that event to this event in order to give a hesped for Sarah. And that really begs the question, what is the significance? If that's in fact true, what is the significance of Avraham coming from the kavura of Terach? However, Rav Yosef suggests that Rabbi Levi's position is untenable because of the fact that the kavura of Terach occurred a couple of years earlier. And therefore, the fourth suggestion is what Rav Yosef himself argues. And that is, if I may borrow from Rabbeinu Bachia, who says that the vayavo means that Avraham was inspired. He was somehow inspired, nisorer. So Rav Yosef says that he came from Akedas Yitzchak. And if we can combine these together, perhaps we can offer the following suggestion. That when Avraham came, he was inspired from Akedas Yitzchak. So what does that mean? He was inspired from Akedas Yitzchak. Perhaps at Akedas Yitzchak, Avraham realized that he thought all this time this was his nisayon, that it was his experience, that his success or failure was a consequence of the actions that he took. And indeed, Hashem says, Zate Yadati, now I know that you, Avraham, are Yirei Elokim. But what Avraham perhaps realized here is that he was not the only player in the story. That his actions, his opportunity, his success in the Nisayon actually had consequences on others, on Sarah Imenu herself. Of course, the Medrash says that Sarah Imenu heard the news, she ultimately expired from the terrible news. The point being that Avraham came to a realization. Vayavo Avraham. Avraham came. He didn't come from an event. He came perhaps from an event, but he came to a realization. And that realization is that his commitment, his religious commitment to the Ribono Shel Olam, to this Nisayon, to doing the Ritzon Hashem, he doesn't live in a vacuum. And his actions have ripple effects on others. And so he came to extol Sarah, lispodas l'Sarah, for her sacrifice, for her paying the ultimate price for Avraham's achievement. And her death And her death is her greatness. And in her death, he saw her greatness. Often, we make commitments, spiritual, religious, mundane, and otherwise, that are important. But it's also important to acknowledge the impact that our commitments have on others. And perhaps even that our glory, our success, our achievements could not have occurred in a vacuum. And in fact, learning from Avraham Avinu, perhaps we would be zoche to acknowledge the contributions that others have played in our lives, that others have contributed to our success, or as hakaras hatov in life, before it becomes an acknowledgement in death. Good Shabbos.